All right, here we
Are you
go.
the same environment? You keep moving around.
Yeah, I know. I like to move around. You don't? Um,
Well,
I can pick a
I
spot.
don't see
I'll
any
pick a
white
spot.
spots.
Here.
I don't see any white spots.
What do you mean? Well, can you see the
There's
room?
no. You can see a room.
What's in the room? Can you see a bat flying around
It's.
a lampshade?
I'm in the wrong environment.
Switch out to tranquil
Um,
grandeur if you can.
yes. I'm trying to remember how to do that.
Options panel, and then down the bottom left, there's a couch that looks like environment.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the options panel. Oh, yes.
Left controller.
And it's very, very uncomfortably close. I'll move that, please. Oh, that's not you. That was in my crotch. For fuck's sake. Right. Tranquil grandeur. Why doesn't it? The. There you go. Where are you? You still here?
Of course I'm here.
Hello.
Where else would I be?
Hey there. Oh, that's better. Yeah, they need to work on the interface. It's the join room is immediately replaced by exit room.
Yeah.
That's never a good idea.
No. As they would
Anyway.
say, I'd say the same thing that we would say. It's like there's other shit that you'd miss more. That's what they're working on.
Exactly. That is probably on their backlog. That's the usual thing. It's like, yeah. Oh, we got a TV screen. Can we put anything on that?
No, it seems it's tempting, right? You're like, why can't you just put the shared computer there? But
I know that'd be cool.
anyway.
Well,
It's nice to see you in the same space. Anyway.
Yeah.
We got that.
Oh, you turned green now. For some reason.
I think I go green when I share, like, because I'm sharing.
Oh, that's what happens. All right, okay.
Yeah, like I'm sharing the shared computer now. Or at least I'm
not seeing
trying to.
anything.
Because you got to open it. Remember, you got to open your version of it. Because I can.
Oh yeah.
You know, right. I can put the windows wherever I want.
I've got a red flashing dot. That's disturbing. Come on
now.
I've lost the bloody. There it is. Okay. Share computing.
Share computer.
Computer.
I'd like
what the fuck are you doing? Can I just move you away? There you go. Stick over there. And you are way too close.
Do I have a shared bookmarks thing?
No. This is eventually going to be actually quite cool and usable.
Yeah.
But not yet. Yeah. Right.
Still,
anyway,
it's better than workrooms.
Were you recording all that then?
Yes, yeah, I was. This is us, the bleeding edge. The bleeding edge.
Yep. Because nobody else can be arsed.
Also,
okay.
It looks like we've got no history recollection from the last time we were here.
Yep, it's not saved anything.
So I got issues, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna freeze the current iteration of long thread, unless you disagree with that, because I need to start ripping some bits apart in ways that will not be comical.
Yeah, cool. What's anything I can do with to help with your long? Wait, you changed into long thread. Long thread.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. I typed it wrong. I earnestly did mean. Thank you for picking that up.
It's just slightly amusing that we call it long thread.
Well, I typoed it, and then I couldn't be asked changing it back.
But also it's accidentally amusing, which is always good.
I love a good long thread. Right.
So, anything I can help with, other than you don't need to explain it if you've like, yeah, I've got this. If you do want to explain it and there's something that can help, then yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to explain it, and I'd love it if you can help. And it's really about I've got a collection of problems that seem
Mm-hmm.
unrelated, but have become sort of all together now. So I'm struggling to come up with a Napp, um, not so much a Napp format. Like I think we've got that down pretty good, but I'm struggling to
Yeah.
come up with a Napp workflow, as in how should Artifact load a Napp? How do you
Oh,
work on a
all right.
Napp while you're on the platform? How should you
Mm-hmm.
take any given Napp and modify it while you iterate it towards its next release? When you are
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with it, how do you release it? How then does everyone else who is on the platform receive that upgraded version? How much of the testing framework are we saying is selected by us, or are you free to have no tests or any tests? Like where does the hand of mother stop? And
Those, yeah, those are excellent questions. Well asked. We've touched on a few of them, and I've accidentally broken it in the past, trying to change an agent that is itself the agent that's making the change. I remember back when
yep,
overwrote files.
yep.
So other than that, I've not spent too much time thinking about it. So let's think about it.
Thanks, buddy. That was really such a great addition to the topics.
Right, where do you want to start? You had a list of about six
Yeah.
questions there.
At the same time, these problems are unrelated. Well, they're not unrelated, but they're just not directly the same. I managed to get that recording feature going for doing recording API calls as they're happening. But
Mm-hmm.
the painful thing about that was that I had taken some shortcuts in terms of the repeatability of our calculations, or when an action is executing with an artifact, even though it is supposed to be repeatable. Repeatability is hard, and I had deferred some types of calculation for the sake of convenience. But in order to replay the APIs, the API calls, they actually needed to be repeatable. And if they were going to be repeatable, it meant that the state and artifact had to be repeatable. And so that led to some unexpected work.
Oh, I see. So it's not the API returning different results each time, but it's
No,
just it's returning into a different environment.
well, it's that the call going out should be the same. Otherwise, if I just simply return the results of call number 5 without checking what the parameters of the call were, how should
Mm-hmm.
I detect when the artifact code had behaved erroneously or
Mm. Yeah.
gone awry? And so um, that sort of brought forwards a bunch of work to make things repeatable. I got that in a good state and it's working now, but the the terrible thing there's two terrible things. Number one is that um, the delay of the API calls had allowed me to believe that the AI was the slowest piece of the system, and so it didn't matter too much about our performance. But now
Uh-huh.
that the API delay has been completely removed, it looks like about half the delay in a regular sort of chat where you're getting back, say, one paragraph back from the AI, half of the
Yeah.
delay was artifact. And I guess,
Oh.
I'd been
I wasn't
complaining.
expecting that.
Nah, neither,
Mm.
right? But I'd been complaining that it was slow because I knew how to make it go a lot faster. I just didn't think the impact was so severe. So that is actually quite a severe impact. Um, Tuning is something I
Well,
really want to do, but it's not actually on the main line. Um,
yeah. Well, I'm getting around it just by having multiple
Multiple
threads.
tabs, eh? Yeah, I know. That's what I
Yeah.
do as well. But then the second terrible thing is that even with the recorded results of the API calls, some of the complex flows, like the test file runner, are still
Mm.
actually quite difficult to get a working version out of because they actually make a large number of AI calls, and
Mm.
it turns out to be a little bit difficult to even get a clear run in some of them. Now, I'm sure that we could if we spent the time on it, but um, the other issue is now that you're working on HAL, I was relying on parts of HAL to be in that testing. And so now
Mm.
that you're working on it, like you should be, it should be being changed. But now I need to detach from HAL being part of the artifact test suite because HAL had become intertwined with artifact because that's sort of where we've done all the integration and all the work. But now we need to turn HAL into a Napp and detach it from being inside of
Mm.
artifact altogether. So it's sort of a bit sticky and
Mm.
mangled at the moment, and it's not pleasant.
Oh. Well, it sounds very similar to my life over the last 48 hours on the tests, which I'm starting to get at least roughly repeatable, but only by isolating tests, because I'm testing router. I've updated router. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
noticed that.
saw that. Yeah.
So that was the way I went through that was run one test. Router should be able to do this, and then another test that should be able to fuck it up. And yeah, okay, and then go round and round and round. So there's a new router there, but yeah, so we're aiming at a moving target here. That's the main problem, I think. We know what head mark is,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure whether there's any shortcut other than just keep buggering on. I don't know.
There's always a
Um,
shortcut. There's always a shortcut. It's
yes,
just
whether
what.
it's a good one or not.
In fact, there's lots of shortcuts, but it's just like which one is the one to take. And I think the thing that will settle it all is to decide what is the format of a Napp, or better yet, what is the workflow of a Napp. And once we can get a handle on that, then I can implement that, and then
Okay, well, let's. Sorry, go on.
that should get rid of these collisions that we're having.
Yeah, so let's start on that. So, the format of the Napp is good enough for now, right? So let's just make sure that we're in sync uh,
Okay.
on the format, and then we can look at what a workflow would look like.
Okay, I'll bring up a format.
Cool.
This is very cumbersome, this thing. I want my history.
Yeah,
Now I have to type it
it's because you
character by
can't share.
character.
Well, it doesn't remember it, so it doesn't even matter if you. Well, if you sign in, would it get your history? I don't know.
Christ almighty,
You
it
know,
makes me
and
regret every extra character I put in the organization name.
yeah.
The future of technology, one character at a time.
Future of technology is when technology disappears. You don't actually know that you're dealing with technology. You're just speaking to something that looks like another person.
I definitely know the technology is here, so we have not We have not arrived.
Yeah, future is always a step away. I'm sure there's a song there somewhere.
Yeah, like tomorrow never comes, but for technology. Okay, so I made this little folder in did I make a folder? Mate, I'm sorry.
Did
Oh,
you?
now I can't hit the fucking back button. Surely there's a hotkey for that. I want to click back. Oh, please kill me. Can you click back on the shared browser?
I can try.
Oh, yeah, got it. Stop.
Oh, oh,
Stop. Too
that's
far.
quite subtle. It's not actually highlighting it.
I know.
I thought it couldn't.
Just everything's fucking garbage right now. Naps.
Right, so we're in artifact main naps.
Yeah. And this is the key.
Example nap.
This is the key file, this thing.
Ah, brilliant. And so we can test against this as well whenever you commit for the flow we're about to talk about.
Can you make that go big and pretty? Because I can't.
We can try. New tab, zoom in. Is that prettier?
Wait, no. You and I have
Oh, you
very
mean the
different
entire
ideas
screen?
of pretty. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, no, we're good.
Just lost my
We're good. Can you see it okay? Can
Okay.
you see it okay?
Yeah. Clear as day.
So you can't actually see the window when I move it, right? Like when I move the window in this room, it's independent. You just so happen to have placed your shared window.
That's an interesting
Like if I
idea.
pick it up
Well,
and I just put it behind you.
Yeah.
I just put it behind you, and it didn't move for you, right?
I'll put it up here.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I've put it up here too because that felt like where it belonged.
Yeah. That's interesting, actually. So these are completely independent screens.
Yeah. I think that's the trick of Fluid. Yeah. So definitely the Napp needs to have a JSON config file, is what I thought. I'm happy to argue about that, but it needs some kind of. I strongly believe it needs some kind of configuration document, which allows you to then be free within the format. So long as you have this file, you can format the rest of it any way you like.
Yep. I'm very happy with that.
Okay, the name sounds like you should have a name, just like all the package registries do.
Yeah. Okay, and that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to get nitpicky about that, but that name at the moment could be independent of the file name.
Well, the file name should be this should be a standard name, just like you have package.json. You'd have napp.json. So this file must be named that. Everything else you can call it whatever you want, however you want it, but that file needs to be named that.
It makes sense that we might not need to enforce it, but we just state it that the name here is the same as the file name minus the .json.
No, this is no matter what the Napp is called, this file is going to be called napp.json. No matter what the file is, no matter what the Napp is called.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Just that's exactly like every other package manager does.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Runtime is a special one that we need to enforce because this dictates what environment the code, if any, like if you supplied actual code,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to tell us what runtime it needs to run under. And so that could be like either Python, Rust, Docker,
Mm-hmm.
Java,
Yeah.
C
Okay.
sharp. You know, you just basically pick your runtime, and we'll have to publish different runtimes to process that code. But basically, it's saying that using this
You can
format,
have any run. Yeah, you can have any runtime you want, so
yeah.
long as it's Deno right now. Yeah.
So yeah, right. um, but the point is that Artifact can take any code so long as it fits that JSON calling mechanism, and so long as your code
Mm-hmm.
can be sandboxed in some way. And the ultimate sandbox is like Docker. So it's like you can have as many non-repeatable parts of your code as you like, but because we're going to run it
Mm-hmm.
in a Docker container with no network and no disk except for the interfaces that we give you, you are therefore a pure function
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
you know, if a Docker container runs in the woods and no one's there to hear it, it's side effect free as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And more controllable and testable.
yeah. Now,
Uh. Okay.
branding. So what I've got here is a mixture of things that are essential and things that I wanted to bring up for discussion. Branding is a thing for
Mm-hmm.
discussion. So branding would be like if we agreed on a format for icons, an avatar, um, you know, some
Mm-hmm.
promotional material about the thing, like, hi, my name is Wally and I do, I don't know what a bot named Wally would do, but, you know, it's like
Yeah.
just a path to some sort of a
Um.
structure.
Yeah. That's cool. I've already had one request to stop the user being called Hal because it's apparently too geeky. Sorry, Dave. It was Dave was the one in the contention. Mostly
All right,
because it
so
was a female
so
using it,
that's
I think.
that's gonna
But
go away because at the this is why I'm getting stressed out, right? I've got in place. I
mm-hmm.
chose an identity provider for us. Oh God, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Look, maybe it's easier if I just. What I hate is that it
Can you just
takes.
talk? This word last time. Search by voice. Search by voice.
Well, I would,
That
but
worked
my
last time.
mouse. You've what? No, did it? Fuck! Christ
Oh,
Almighty!
good God, man! Come on, it worked.
The bloody and it just. I was look. If you hadn't got involved, I'd be there already. No.
All right, okay. Oh, that summarizes so many parts of my life. Privy. Okay. All right. Privy.
No,
Email
no,
and SMS
no,
marketing.
no, wrong.
No. Uh, Dictionary term. Well, an old English term for a toilet or a bathroom.
I think that this is I did the research into this, poked around with it, played with it, signed up to the account, and all that. This is what I want to use for our authentication. And
Mm-hmm.
so it won't be called Dave. Dave is just there because we actually have no user accounts, and you know people can laugh about that,
Yeah.
but it's actually kind of hard to put user accounts onto a blockchain for a number of reasons. But anyway, this system unifies like Web
Oh,
2.
that's quite nice. So basically, it wraps a number of OAuths and AppOS
It
there,
wraps a
and
bunch of OAuths, it wraps
SMS and all that
email,
stuff.
and it wraps
Yeah.
Ethereum
And it's got
wallets.
two. Yeah,
So you
and
can
it's got
sign in
2FA in there as
like
well.
yeah,
So
like
in
we don't
this
really
bit,
care. We don't really care what you sign in with, but you need to sign in with at least one thing.
yeah, we definitely don't need to reinvent this. But we shouldn't. Well, if you've selected this, assuming you've looked through it, it's not degrading anything that we're trying to do by being, on chain for everything.
No, and
And these guys are
it's
on
you know
chain, so
it's you can sign up with an Ethereum wallet. which is great for people who don't want to do email addresses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what'll
All
happen
right.
is
That's good.
once I get the Napp format sorted, because I don't want to implement authentication, because I need to get the Napp format implemented, because if I, depending on that, it'll just blow away authentication if I put it in wrong, So the
Yeah.
Napp format's holding up
Yeah,
kind of
that makes
everything.
sense. Yeah.
And then as soon as we have
Yeah.
the Napp
Okay.
format in and we have authentication, oh no, what just happened?
Oh. Oh, there you are.
I'm back. Sorry, buddy, it crashed on me.
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, how about
That's
that, huh?
a complete surprise. How could it ever crash? Mature software, I guess.
Mature software. It's because of its mature users. That's why. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I have no opinion about this. If you checked it out, yeah, that's cool. It's a thing that needs done that we shouldn't do because it's been done many times.
Yeah,
These guys. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. But the point with that is, oh, this is like this torturous game. There's like my dashboard is miles away, and now like I can't. Every time I follow it around the room, it goes further away, like a carrot and a donkey. It's fucking. I'm like, you
This is fucking
fucking
really man.
kidding me? All right.
I'm just gonna look at the bats while you get that sorted out. Quite a nice bat.
It is nice, huh?
Nice touch.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Right.
okay, we're
Anyway, back
back.
to the
We're back.
format then.
We're back.
So
We're back.
yeah. Oh, so yeah, of course, because you don't have your shared window up if you were chasing your thingy around.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So then, why is the future always so painful?
It's almost by definition.
Yeah. So Dave will be renamed to whatever your account name is.
So is
Once
branding more closer to identity, or is it some other thing from individual
no,
identity?
branding is what the Napp is. Like the Napp should have a personality.
Oh,
You know what I
oh, I
mean?
see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, right. And those are all static assets. You mentioned logos and you know name. I'm sure there's going to be a few others, but probably the list is quite short. Is that the sort of thing we're talking about? Static
Yeah,
assets for that branding.
that's
Yeah,
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's cool. Okay,
And
what's the next one?
I just this might be laboring the point, but oh God Almighty, Dream Latcher, Dream Catcher. This is awful. Why is this so terrible? Like, I guess people would say that about our platform too.
Yeah. Hey, there we are.
So what branding means is that, like, each place we've got an app here, the Napp should be able to present as though it was in a store advertising itself. So it would have a logo, a name, some blurb. It would present
All right.
like this,
Yeah, cool.
right?
And interesting enough, if you update the Napp, there's no reason we can't get an AI to do all this. Regenerate the static assets.
Well, that's what that yeah. So that's part of the workflow that we have to decide on, is that the Napp, the crucial difference between a Napp and a standard package is that the version is dictated by AI, so that they're always deduplicated. So you know that whatever Napp you're using, the AI has determined that it is close enough or
Yeah.
further enough away from all the other packages that you don't get presented with, you go to npm and you're like, there's 20 packages that look like they do what I want.
Yeah.
Which one should I choose?
Yeah.
But interestingly, when you have the naps arranged like this, you should be able to chat with them directly in this format. So, you'll go, because it's a natural language app, you should be able to like click on Flow Creator and then be like,
Ask
"Hey,
it
so
what
what
it
do you
does.
do?" Yeah, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
right through its natural language pipe, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but branding was just about assets that we present in that store. That's all. Um,
Yep. That's fine. What about passing a dependency nap straight through? Why have you got that comment there? Or is that not important?
that is a stray comment that was dealt with, and then the note was not cleaned up. So
All right. Okay. Ignore.
what that
Yep.
should
Let's
be
go.
is down here under dependencies. That's where you list the other naps that this one depends on.
Or has permission to call is another way of doing it, I guess. Unless we're talking about versions there. Are we talking
What's
versions
the
or
difference
dependencies?
between having permission to call?
Say if there's a major update to a nap, and you haven't rerun your tests, which you would do at runtime anyway, I guess. So you depend on another nap,
Yeah,
which depends on a nap. Someone changes something
right.
somewhere, quite ridiculously, change it from doing blue to pink. Then you might still want the blue nap instead of the pink nap, which should be
Yeah,
a version,
so I
right?
guess that we can start with the traditional way of managing that, which is using version numbers. But what I dream of for us is having some kind of a semantic firewall where a collection of AIs look at the proposed upgrades and decide whether or not, when looking at all the past behavior and rerunning old calls against new code, they determine that the chance of the new code being correct is good, and so you can get this
Well, the
auto upgrade thing.
framework, framework should support that, right? So, say if, I mean, versions of a NAP uh, could be considered just as other NAPs, but in vector space, they're all going to be quite similar. And we can probably prompt it to say, right, maybe you are super conservative and you want to go to the last one that you run your tests on, and we know when you run your tests or you rerun the tests on this new version. So there's games to be played there, because we've got every version of the NAP that's ever been. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess parts of my problem are that I'm thinking of making it be to publish a NAP for now. I could make it like an npm package, and so you would have published this thing. It's in this external package repository,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets pulled in as required. Now, that solves the dependency issue for us in a traditional sense, which I really don't think we're in a position to benefit from this sort of high octane, very automated version that we're talking about.
Not yet.
This semantic
No.
upgrading, like that's really not going to give us any accelerant right now.
Yeah. And
And
we're a year away from probably being good enough
yeah,
to
and
be able to
so
get
I
that
guess
right.
part of the torture is I'm like, do I just publish to a traditional package repository each time there's a new NAP? Because there's a collection of workflow tools, like we can run automated tests and only publish if it passes or fails. These are well-defined workflows, and I'm like, it would give us a sort of a feeling of formality when you declare a Napp as improved, and then you go publish, and then it goes out.
Yeah, yeah, we could do that. Now, this is the Napp part of the agent. The second part being whatever NL you want, right?
Well,
So how
yeah.
do
So under the example Napp, there's like um, this field here, chat, which is like that is meant to describe where the natural language instructions, like there should be an entry point, an AI entry point needs to be described, which needs to cover, what model is it? Is it like OpenAI? Is it Claude? Is it some other thing? What's the system instructions for that app, which can be either a collection of code or natural language instructions. So basically, the how you fill in this field, like what is the natural language entry point, is going to be dependent on a, a, a range of options that we should support. But for now, it's an OpenAI endpoint. We can specify the bot, the model type, like 4.0 or mini or O1, and we can specify the natural language instructions, and we can specify the tools that are available to that to that agent.
so as an example, if we take this format just as given,
Mm.
and then we've got the natural language stuff underneath it. It's
Mm-hmm.
got some tools in the Napp. Those are the tools that are available in natural language if you try and do
Well,
something outside of
no,
that.
the point I was trying to make with the tools here is that tools are what the Napp exposes to the outside world. These are not the tools that are necessarily available to
Ah,
the.
sorry, they're not the same as command. These are outward pointing you're talking about.
Yeah, because the reason why I like that is that if we say that a Napp can be either baked code or natural language code or any mixture of those two,
Mm.
then I can take all of that stuff that's in the isolates folder with an artifact, and I can move it into a Napp. Each one can be a Napp. And
Which is
so,
why you're talking about packages, because
yeah, well, yeah, because
yeah.
because like then like because if you look at the isolates folder, and then you sort of, oh no, please don't crash.
Oh,
Hey, my
I
prayer,
was
it
going to
worked.
say something.
Um, Imagine that.
Hmm.
I should try that more. Um, so this is the isolates folder, right? And you'll notice that it's
Mhm.
growing at a reasonably quick rate, but it also looks very similar to the agents folder within HAL. And
Does.
and now it's starting to get weird things in it, like YouTube. Like, why would YouTube be included in the artifact core? Why would
Mm-hmm.
the chess app be included in artifact core? And the answer is it shouldn't. Those things should be packaged up in naps. Naps are run by artifact. And so if we make it so that you can have tools that are exposed by a nap, then everything can be packaged as an app, and it takes all
Okay,
the load off of
so
artifact.
tools are an abstraction outwards
Yep.
looking,
Yep.
um, and commands are artifact.
Well, commands we agreed was going to be renamed tools.
Yeah, this is why I'm getting confused about the tools being only
Yeah.
outward looking.
Okay, so the tools of the nap is what the nap presents to the outside. But when you have under your chat description, your agent that you chose as your entry point for this Napp, they can also have some tools loaded up, which may not be the same as the tools that you expose to the outside world. And the reason for that is that when you get down to dependencies and you specify other Napps, you might want to call on the tools that those Napps export inside your natural language agent that this Napp contains.
Okay. All right. So, talk me through an example where, for some reason, we want files.md to be able to run all the usual artifact tools
Mm.
and grab a YouTube transcript.
So
So
you
to
want to make an agent that can read files but also can interact with YouTube.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. So what you would do then is you'd make your Napp and you'd say as a dependency, you'd say the
Mm-hmm.
YouTube Napp and you'd say the files Napp, and
Mm-hmm.
then um in your tools for the agent, like let's assume that you are just you're a Napp that is intended to be interacted with only by a human, or
Mm-hmm.
only by natural language. So it could be an agent, but you're not trying to expose any tools because you don't make any new tools here. You're just combining other ones. So
Mm-hmm.
you would simply export your chat function as saying chat would be, and then you'd point to your sysprompt instructions and you'd say that it's an OpenAI bot using 4.0 Mini. And then inside that definition of that agent, you would include some of the tools that were exposed by the files Napp and the YouTube
Mm-hmm.
Napp, and
Mm-hmm.
or you might choose to expose the files Napp as a natural language tool to your agent, so that your agent here can either um, talk to the files Napp in natural language, or you
Mm-hmm.
could give it the power to call the tools directly.
That sounds pretty reasonable. So, just to sync back on you, inside the agent, I can say, right, you are a YouTube file writer, um, and this is your Napp, and that exposes files and YouTube Napps.
Mm.
Um, now, say if I wanted to turn it into Spanish uniquely in this agent, then I could also put in a tool there that dealt with the translation into Spanish.
Correct, but you wouldn't have to, unless you were planning for that tool to be consumed by another Napp. You could just keep that all internal to your Napp and not expose it. This field
Right.
was about what you choose to expose to the world. What is the utility that you want to present?
Yeah,
If you,
yeah, precisely. I could
yeah,
also write Spanish Napp and
yeah,
then just import that,
that's
and it
right,
would have the same impact, except now other people can use Spanish Napp.
that's right, that's right, that's right.
Okay. Um, all right. So all of this tools thing looks good.
But the tools,
And
and
this
so
is
it's the tools is gonna be, the interface here is gonna be the exact same format as what you're gonna put into the agents to consume as well. It's just the difference is this is exported on the outside, and when you use it inside your agent, you're consuming it as part of the LLM's toolkit.
yeah, but also presumably there's some kind of restriction that unless I've specified additional tools, and I'm only running this Napp, then I can only call the tools that the Napp has exposed to me. I can choose fewer of them. I can say,
Yeah, you can have less, but yeah, like
yeah,
if you try to put some tools into your bot that either aren't inside this Napp or aren't specified in the dependencies, then it'll throw an error because I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so you're
Like,
trying to do something
what do you
you're
want
not
me
allowed
to
to
do?
do.
What do you want me to do about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Okay, now, um, right, let me read through. So some function description, yeah, parameters, whatever, parameters, yeah, permissions, list of permissions required to run this function. Well, we're kind of talking about that earlier on. Maybe that is just a check if you can, the current user can, and then unless by permissions, do you mean something else there, or is it can
Yeah.
this current user?
So I was thinking, because what I'm sort of grasping at here with this tools definition is to say that there's a universal way that we can describe function calling using JSON that acts as a superset to what OpenAI uses and what all the other LLMs expect. And a part
Mm,
of that superset is to add the permissions field that says what in order to call this tool, what must I have available? And that can be something like, do I need the network card? If I need the network card, what protocols am I allowed to use? What URLs may I call? Am I allowed to dial them, or am I simply allowed to listen as a server? What file
mm-hmm.
paths should I have access? Do I need the disk at all?
Who's
Um,
picking up the check? Yeah,
right? Who's paying for my execution?
yeah.
Um, so that's what permissions was about. And whilst whilst um whilst it is an added complication to put that in early on, the lesson that I think everyone learned from Deno is that if you don't think of permissions up front, you will probably never be able to insert them later,
Hmm.
because that's the difference between Deno and Node fundamentally, is that Deno maintains the isolation that the browser window provides to make sure that the browser window has extremely limited permissions except what the user grants. Node
Mhm.
wrapped that interface and then poked holes everywhere and then built on those poked holes.
Mm.
Deno maintains that isolation, and they've managed to get to a functioning state and held the permissions model in place, and now they have permissions and no one else does. Like, as
Mm.
stupid as that sounds. Now, I might be wrong, and other languages have moved on a bit since I was busy trying to act like I knew how to program and everything, but it's, by and large, being able to run a program and lock its permissions to say no disk, no URL, you can only go to this website, and you can only dial out. Like, that's powerful.
Where, probably not in this field, but where, for example, if I want to have my local running model run this Napp,
Mhm.
um, and there's some kind of API key required,
Yeah, so I
where do
think
keys?
that is the whole gateways section,
Hmm.
and there appears to be a very distinct, like, it actually isn't naps all the way down. It's naps all the way down until you need to do some kind of an API call. Like, if all of your requirements can be met by Artifact, which is a deterministic execution environment that has a file system that ticks forward repeatably,
Hmm.
if all your needs are met by that, then you're done. But a lot of use cases need some kind of an API call to occur. And I fail to see what types of applications can't be met by a combination of Artifact, a deterministic information system, and mixed with API calling. It sort of seems like you can do.
Well, that's essentially you could do that in code without all the extra NL stuff, right? So if one of the gateways happened to be a weather service,
Yeah,
we had permissions listed
yeah,
that, you know, I can call the weather on this, and your API key for that weather service was somewhere, don't know where, then no NL required. You could have a button on the state board, and you press it, and then that's exactly the same as
Yeah,
traditional code at that
that's
point.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, the real-time streaming seems to be one type of application that this model would, you could still do it, but it would sort of need a little bit more tinkering. But for everything that we're doing with, which is like, 90% of the money-making web
Just
APIs,
go fetch, retrieve, and with
yeah,
NL, talk about it. Yeah.
right, right. It's basically record it, think about it, LLM it, and then make a web API call. And it's those things, and I think you're home and host. So the Napp
Yeah.
format really represents a way to represent units of cloud functionality. And Artifact provides a standardized host or an operating system within which to run this standardized cloud system. And the virtue being the cloud can be your local computer, or it can be a host, or the tricky bit, it can be multiple hosts concurrently executing your code under consensus. And so if you can fulfill all three of those execution types using the Napp format, I honestly think you're done. Like, you don't really need much more than that.
Yeah, the consensus would be another Napp, wouldn't it?
No, consensus is not another Napp. Consensus is the same Napp being run by another host and agreeing with a concurrent execution that the Napp ticked forwards in the same way.
It's not then for example, sending off 3 API calls to 3 different endpoints and then considering them and getting some idea about whether they're close enough,
Oh,
or voting logic, or that sort of thing.
that's a good point. I don't know how to answer that definitively. I need to think about that one more. That's a very good point. So you're saying there that the consensus mechanism could be a Napp, that where each host was running a version of it independently, and it made gateway calls out to other hosts that were running
Yeah,
another instance of it, and then atop of that transport fabric, um, other naps could be executed in lockstep consensus on top of that. That's what you're saying?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
precisely.
that's pretty clever. That's pretty good. That is actually really good. That is how we should do it. That's
Hey,
okay.
you managed to add something. Okay. But that means that you don't need to change any of this, because it seems that just naturally falls out.
Yeah. And so the point of the gateways is that when you publish your NAP, you would list out the gateways you needed. So you might need a Pinecone database, you might need an OpenAI connection, and you might need a Midjourney API. And the idea being that we'll provide some defaults so that people can just get up and running. You can supply your own if you want to go through the pain of setting up your own API key and your own credit card and all that. Or you can substitute it with something else that is interface compatible. Or in some cases, you can run it on your local machine as well. So
Right, but it knows what you're running this NAP. It knows what gateways you're allowed to have as endpoints. It
yeah,
also knows who you are, and
yeah,
so then when that API call is run, it's over to the end system
yeah.
to decide whether the stuff that you're asking for is allowed.
So the runtime, which is Artifact, the runtime looks at the config of what the gateways are and resolves all the gateways for you. Now, resolve all the gateways is a non-trivial step and can include some redundancy. So you can be like, I want to, you know, I want to generate images. I want you to try free gateway number 1 first, free gateway number 2 second, and then last resort, if you know, go to the charge money gateway only if the other ones fail. So you can do a lot of intricate stuff with the gateway configuration.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
But
Okay.
that's the point where you exit Napland, and now the gateway, whilst it is a complex piece, it's very well isolated in terms of its function is clear, its limits are clear. It's basically artifactorizing API calls, because the point is they should be repeatable so that you can have a Napp and then completely mock it with gateway interactions. Because the Napp itself is repeatable, the API calls need to be repeatable as well. And that's why the gateway is a bit special in that sense. It is an
No, that
artifact
makes
compatible gateway.
yeah, that makes sense. It also makes sense with testing because at the moment our permissions are wide open.
Yeah,
Can do anything,
I
include
know.
delete
Yeah,
files.mb.
but
Um, but what that would allow you to do though is run the tests against your credentials on a remote system that Artifact knows about through gateways but has no control over.
right,
Now, say if you run out of credits on that, the tests are going to fail,
right.
and it can come back with something interesting like, as part of this stack of stuff you're trying to do, this weather site you haven't paid, and it just
Yeah,
came back saying, no,
that's right.
we're
It
not doing
should
it.
have some intelligence for you instead of just like a a number like 40403. And you're like,
Exactly.
what is
Computer
four oh
says
three?
no. Computer says no. Yeah.
Computer said
I mean, why?
403. Is that how much money I've got left, or is that what I got charged? So yeah, hopefully we can sort of friendlyize the web a bit.
That's non-trivial, that part. But I can easily see, for example, if there's a company with an existing database, then that gateway thing would be the thing that gave them confidence that they didn't have to rip and replace. They could just augment and
Yeah,
add.
yeah. So for the CRM guys, I'm guessing what I'll do is the gateway function would be the call to their accounting system. And so the Napp that runs on premise to access their accounting system uses a localized gateway to go out
Yeah.
and come back. And what that means is we can mock it when we do the Napp testing to verify the package. We can mock and anonymize those calls so that we can be sure that changes we make to the artifact code and the natural language code should theoretically have a high chance of working right on the real environment, because we've tested thoroughly against the mocks.
Yeah, and we can always stub out tests, as in, if this fails, just say it didn't fail and return this piece of JSON or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
the gateways like that, they're meant to be how you access the world, but because I guess you could stack a knack, stack a Napp to be acting as a gateway too, you could pipeline your calls so that there was AI being inserted along the way, so that your gateway calls are softened in some way.
I think that's going to be quite important, because what I'm getting the gist of is process, telling the AI what the steps are, as opposed to just saying a description, here's what you want to do. The more specific, do this, and even inside of natural language logic, can be placed. So if you get an answer back from the weather app, if and only if, then give me a list of restaurants with outside tables, for example.
Oh, right.
Um,
So that would be pipelining naturally, where the one Napp was switching between other Napps that it was going to call on, where each of those Napps had inside it a gateway call that it was making and then tarting up, I guess, because the gateway
yeah,
responses, we should always be making them with the view of being consumable by an AI. as opposed to being this weird computer code where there's no actual standard. It's just like, you know, I mean, what's the standard for weather calls, you know? Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it Celsius, Fahrenheit, Kelvin?
right,
Who knows?
right. Now, one last thing I wanted to add about that gateways, um, which is, I don't even know the word for it, but OpenAI, making a call to OpenAI should be a gateway call. It shouldn't,
Hmm.
at the moment for us, it's a special call because Artifact makes it directly. But in actual fact, OpenAI should be just like any other API call. You should be able to pick a provided gateway, a shared gateway, your own one, a local one. All those types of options should be available to you. Um,
Yeah.
the second part is a little more tricky in that the Deno host, the Deno KV store, that should be an API call too. And that part, I haven't figured
Mm,
out how.
these, yeah, these sound like you can't leave gateways empty then, unless we just default
Mm,
back to something.
no, no, um, that's a good point. What I'm trying to get at with, because gateways is billing. Like every time you hit the gateway, it's going to cost you. Every time you execute the Napp logic, it's going to cost you. I want to do billing based on the tool call execution. So there'll be like a fee to
Hmm.
invoke the tool. There'll be a fee for the size of the parameters. There'll be a fee for the computation time of the tool. There'll be a fee for the gateway usage, and there'll be a fee for the file size in the commit that resulted from the tool call returning. But
Hmm.
all of that billing, like I still want to be able to bill for Deno in the same way as we bill for the usage inside of the naps. Like
Hmm.
using Deno shouldn't be a separate billing arrangement. It should be the same as the billing arrangement for a nap.
Yeah.
Which is easy to
Yeah.
say and it makes sense to say, but how to do it is not so easy. Um,
Mm.
it maybe sounds like a Ben problem. Like, hey, buddy,
Mhm.
we got a real head scratcher here.
There's also those services which are not billable, so I could add
What?
a gateway to my local server
Right.
um, that's set up a model, an open source model, add it in as a gateway.
Right.
There it is.
No, but it's that you would have to supply that gateway with restrictions on it. Like you'd say, it's only for these naps or these identities, these people can use it, and the charge is 0, but only to these people. So, like, turning off the billing is easy if you have billing, but without billing, turning on billing is really hard. So, the gateway is really about it's about money, really.
Hmm. Okay.
Like all the other
But the
stuff is
gate.
about utility, but the gateway calls are about money. Like that's the billing relationship.
What? How do we then? Let's take a CRM NAP,
Mm.
which is general purpose, custom agent, all that kind of good stuff, and then it's deployed in one company, and it has its database exposed as an API on a private network. Um, where's that going to go? Because you wouldn't want that in the publicized NAP. You'd want that in a. And you also wouldn't want necessarily, I think, probably to fork it. You kind of want to inject it somehow into gateways. So a CRM app is available
Oh
for the
no,
entire
that's
world,
just
but
that.
I.
Yeah, yeah. So getting it in there is really just the runtime decides what to plug in and out. And so long as the gateway declarations are really about declaring compatibility requirements, you're saying I must have a gateway that is compatible with this accounting system available to me. You don't
Mhm.
much care which one it is, because that's up to the executor of the Napp to specify that. But you're saying that it's an
Mhm.
error. You're not able to function unless you have that. And so,
Right.
by default, we're like, here's a mock that we attached for testing purposes, but obviously you need your own one.
Right. So you must have a MySQL database that is provided at execution time, but the CRM dot JSON Napp, all it includes is well, unless you have a source of data for your CRM, you're not going to have much of a CRM, are you?
Right.
Okay. All right.
Now, so the billing, like this thing that I think is special about the Napp format is that it kind of bundles with it things like billing. Because if you can get a platform where the consumers of all the npm packages had a single billing relationship for the consumption of their npm packages, and they were just paying for everyone whose package they used, like, that's sort of developer nirvana at that point. Because that's one of the big ills of open source, is that everyone's, draining these packages and getting rich off them, and then giving like nothing back.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
But
You're absolutely right.
yeah, and so
Um,
the nap is supposed to be a way to provide billing, but also to allow for gateway operators to provide billing. Because a gateway is a type of a service that is, it's not retrospective. It's You can charge money for an API gateway, because you just say, I ain't running it unless you pay that. Whereas like a piece of software that you gave away
mhm,
under the GPL, you're like, can you pay me for that? And they're like, nah. Go, okay then. But
yeah.
you still, the biller has control in the API relationship, because you're like, you need to have $40 in there, or I'm not running. So that's an easy one. And then the market force pulls that down. So the API gateway is, I guess, what causes there to be any price at all paid in the system, because you have to pay for OpenAI credits. There's no, you're not going to get your
Mm,
tokens, or your
mhm.
intelligence won't flow unless you pay.
Yeah, and so naps can be private and public, as in published or not published, right?
Definitely. Yep, definitely. And I don't know how to support that right now, but just like you can have a private npm package, like, there's no reason why that couldn't be a very useful thing. And in fact, I think npm makes its money off of the people who want private repositories or private
Mm.
packages, and they just charge you money for that thing, because it's a pain. It's easy to make it open, it's a pain to make it closed, and if you want to make it closed, you probably have money.
Yeah, yeah, but by wrapping it in the nap, stupid example, I could create a private nap
Mm,
that had one gateway which was out to my endpoint that generated, I don't know, a stream of random numbers.
mm,
Um, and uh, that could be used inside of any nap structure that I've got.
mm,
Um, and perhaps I'd want anyone who wasn't called Timothy to be able to use it as well, because I hate
right.
anyone called Timothy. Um,
So those
which
those
would,
those things should be possible under this format. The fact that we have a billing relationship in mind means that we also have an identity relationship in mind. And so you should be
Yeah.
able to specify access controls arbitrarily, possibly intelligently, where an AI makes the call on whether or not a particular actor can gain access to the NAP that you're providing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And well, there's all sorts of things that I could go through immediately coming to mind that take movies, downloading movies. It's like you can only download this movie if you're inside the UK. Fine, so we know that. But you can't use this NAP in any other NAP that uses another service, which is ripping movies, for example.
Yeah, I
Because
guess you could
you
actually
could
start
prompt
to,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you could
right. You
prompt
could
that
actually
easier.
start to have some morals built into the naps where they're like,
Yeah,
we'll run, but we don't
yeah,
run for this purpose.
exactly.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
Um,
Because the other
yeah,
part is like when you have dependencies in the naps, we need some kind of a semantic firewall that every time a request goes out to an app, there's some sort of an overwatch that's checking that what came back from the nap's intelligence calls actually matches what the description or the advertisement of what its capabilities are.
yeah, because you
Right.
could swap out
Yeah,
your
you
random
could
number
do a rug
generator
pull.
with
Yeah.
some kind of weirdness.
Yeah, you could rug pull
Um,
it, but at
yeah,
the same time, if you're gonna put that sort of a firewall in there, an intelligence firewall in there, you can also attach, restrictions that are intelligence based into the NAP, where it says that I will not be used for any kind of warfare, or I will not be used for people whose name includes Timothy, or anything you
yeah,
want, really.
yeah, yeah. No matter what the uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. Because that mixing and matching with intelligence between the steps is really powerful. I will give you all the news, but I will not include any news from Russia.
That's right.
Um, and that is at the prompting level, dead easy. Um, so long as it comes back, as long as Overwatch agrees that, well, there's a number of layers actually. It would be artifact, I guess. Agrees, okay, it's well formed. Number one. And then it's passed into the intelligence saying, is it actually what you wanted? And inside of that, you can create your own restrictions, whatever you want. Effectively create your own Facebook newsfeed where you don't hear about anyone with Kardashian as a surname.
Hmm.
Um, hmm, interesting. Okay, so I think it's pretty good. Now, how does this format? How are you seeing it interacting? Because at the moment, uh, under the agents folder, the file has this information at the top.
Yeah,
So
so I
how do you
want to
see it
strip that out.
ultimately
So
happening?
I wanted to strip that out, and so the agents that we've been making are actually they're really just a case of OpenAI agents, but we need to support
Mhm.
arbitrarily many agents. The instructions in Markdown format should just be pure text, and they shouldn't be. It should be a separate file that deals with the configuration for that particular agent. I haven't written an example here, but it would be like OpenAI dash example dash nap would be a JSON file that represented the configuration required to run this agent as an OpenAI agent.
Yeah, but inside of that natural language agent, you need to refer to at least one NAP because otherwise it's just a text file. It can't do
No,
anything. So
that's perfectly fine. It's a nap with no dependencies, right?
no, not talking about the NAP bit. So we got beautiful library full of NAPs.
Yeah.
And I want to do some NL stuff below the line. That stuff needs to use one or more of these naps and needs some way of referring back to, right, I want to use that nap,
Do
this
you
nap, I want to
mean
mix and match or
do you
so.
mean like in the instructions here?
What's the instructions?
Instructions, that's just the
There
system prompt.
are, yeah, it could be.
Yeah, but
Probably that'd be best way.
there doesn't need to be any tool calls in here for it to be able to be used. It could have no tools. It could just be pure AI with no tool calling ability.
Okay, but what if you
That's a
wanted to
valid
do
nap.
that is, but the flip side of it is I want you to be constrained by just these tools and no other tools. So
Oh, right.
if you specify no tools, then it's
Yep.
like, yeah, whatever the defaults are.
Yep.
But it's like you can
Well,
only do one
okay,
thing.
so that's an interesting question because one of the options that we could choose to meet that constraint is to say that inside of the Napp JSON, whatever the tools that I export from the package are going to be the tools that are available to the agent. Now, is that over constraining or is that simplifying? I like that model, but
Hmm.
I wonder if it wouldn't cause problems. I do like that model where we're like, well, if the Nap's going to expose something, or if the Nap's going to get its internal agent to have access to tools, those tools should be exported.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just feels a little bit arbitrary to make that rule, but I think it would simplify it a lot because if you don't make that rule, it means that you have to declare what tools your agent has access to somewhere else. And the
yeah,
question really comes down to, are the tools that you want to expose really so different to the tools that you want your agent to consume? And that's really the only question we got to answer.
yeah, 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 exactly. Um,
So, what do you think?
yeah.
Interesting question, right? Like,
Yeah, it is, isn't it? If I created an agent, so by agent, all I'm saying is uh, uh, a prompt, natural language description, where I want to pull in. So these naps can go right down to almost single functions, right?
yep,
Weather, restaurants, what color
yep,
is this?
yep. They can be
Um,
grouped
uh,
arbitrarily.
yeah, yeah. And I want to give though anything that is inherited from those naps uh, is available to this agent, but nothing else. Then I could say, get me a list of restaurants where it's not raining and the logo is red, whatever.
Right.
But
That's a
I
crazy
can piece
query.
those together.
That's a crazy query.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can constrain it at that level by pulling in whichever naps are already there, and then perhaps I don't know, perhaps publishing that. No, because it's just NL.
I don't think it's. Why don't we try it and say that the exports the exported tools are the ones that are available to your agent.
Yeah, it
Nah,
feels
actually, I like it, but
uh,
I just thought of a counterexample. So
okay.
another option, another build type that or
Hmm.
use case for a Nap is where internally in the Nap you might have multiple agents available, like a swarm, a mixture of experts, right? And so
Hmm.
in that point, you would have a main agent, which would be like the switchboard or the triage agent that would
Hmm.
take all of the incoming NL, and then internally it would do some switching and messaging to other agents and then come back. Now, that's a case
Hmm.
where the tools that you expose would not accurately reflect what you wanted to happen on the inside, because each of those individual agents would need a different set of tools configured for them to run. And so the question I put to you is, do we want to be so insistent on modularity that we say that you're only allowed one agent per nap? And so if you want to make a swarm like that, the way to do it is to make multiple naps and then orchestrate them together by using an orchestrator nap. Is that so wrong? Because that feels like such the right thing to do. Is it wrong to insist on that in the format?
I think like make on the NL side life a lot easier. So, for example, I would create the get dry restaurants which are red logos nap,
Yeah.
and I would
It's the way to go,
expose
right?
those
Like
three other
it's the way
three
you
naps,
should.
and I'd say, yeah, and here's some extra logic. I want you to
Right.
talk to me like a pirate. I was like,
Right,
there
because
you go.
if you don't do it that way, it means that you'll end up trying to have some kind of modularity inside of the nap in a way that we can't help you with your testing, because if we make a testing framework that's a nap testing framework designed to test naps, then you go and try and make a bunch of agents inside a nap. How are we to know what format you took?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah,
why
yeah,
don't we
precisely,
run with that?
precisely.
It feels rude to insist on this format. Like, it feels like reaching inside. It feels not good. But since we're the ones using it and we agree that this is the pattern, why don't we just roll with it, and we'll wait and see whether other developers complain about it or not.
Hmm.
Does this sound
And
good?
there's probably tunes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking there's probably tunes you could play on it. But yes, I agree.
All right. So
Um, so
this touches on a problem, or a not a problem, a Sorry, you're
uh,
breaking up a lot, buddy. What did you say?
when it came to
You're still breaking up. I don't know if it's the fact that you have to go through outer space to get to me, or if it's this app.
oh, sadly, I broke up. Saying
Oh,
nothing. I was listening.
yeah, you're back now.
I clears a bell. I can hear you, so who knows? Don't know.
One
But
day
no, I
we will
wasn't
know.
saying anything there.
Okay.
I wasn't
All right.
saying.
Okay. So here is the frustrating thing about all of that. Um, if we bundle up the naps like that, then it means that we can provide a testing framework that doesn't insist on the format of the nap, because the testing framework is outside. It just says that if you provide us tests that are, and if you provide us tests and you tell us what framework to run it on, we can run those tests outside of the nap for you. Now, the important sort of
Hmm,
philosophical
hmm,
point that I want to sort of make here is that traditionally, when people have written package format specifications and sort of, when people were designing npm and all these things, they
hmm,
tried to be less they tried to be non-draconian or non-insistent, because it was for people that they were making these tools. However, for us, our primary consumers are AIs, and the
hmm.
AIs we know perform best when they're told to do something
Right.
narrow and specific.
And give them an example and say you will not do
Right.
anything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that that is a rule that no matter how advanced the AI gets, that's always going to make it perform better. Now, humans don't like to be told like that, because humans think they're smart, which is probably their biggest problem.
Mm,
But an AI is smart and does not mind being told to keep it simple. An AI doesn't react to that in
Yeah.
any way except to perform slightly better. So that's
Yeah.
another reason why I think the rules of system design or um, registry design, which are typically centered around humans, I think those rules are outdated because we're trying to make an AI registry where it's not meant for people, it's meant for machines.
I agree. And to add to that, um, it's not outside our wit to figure out how to write a Napp from natural language. In which case, you're going to get a thread where you're talking backwards and forwards saying, "Hey, you haven't stated what your gateway is." You say, "Oh, my gateway is blah blah blah." Hold on, I'll go get it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's the thing, actually. That thing, because like we have to make it so that anybody can write these naps, and they're going to be guided by a bot, and so the bot needs
right.
to
Yep.
understand the nap format 100%. And
Yep.
whenever anyone wants their freedom to do whatever they like, it is the nap bot that will guide them through the architecture, and the nap format seems to force an architecture that we know is better than you just having a go at it yourself. Like, if you fit this modular architecture, a lot of things will go right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. But also by having the craziness of people wanting to do all sorts of things, what we by putting a Napp in front of them, saying, "I want to create a Napp that does this, 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 and this, and that." You've also got intelligence saying, "You realize you're just asking for something you can't do." It's like, "I would like to jump to Mars.
Yeah, that's
What
right.
kind of
That's
training shoes
right.
should we
That's
buy?"
right. That's right. Because the intelligence is there to help them first find things that are similar, um, break apart their steps into logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Double
Well,
check their thinking, make sure that it
all
can
that
create the
stuff.
test suite,
Mm,
make sure the test suite
right.
passes before you're saying, "I'm going to make this public."
Right,
And
right.
you're going,
So
"Sorry,
it's
man,
actually
it
it's
doesn't pass the
actually
tests."
it's actually reasonable then for us to be very opinionated about the format of a nap, where it's really just ruled by simplicity, modularity, and AI ergonomics, really, because we should, O1 should be able to reason its way through why a nap is like this and be like, this is the logical minimum choice. This is how you should make a natural language registry, I
Yeah,
think.
and already it's pretty good at that. I mean, even just dumping in that Git repo the other day created the man pages of the isolates as they are now, um, with just very little prompting,
Mm.
quite a lot of sitting and waiting. Um,
Yeah, but it
but
also means that, breaking apart those isolates into a nap means that O1 can grind away on just this digestible little chunk. So it's
Mhm.
like just one isolate, and it manages the description, it manages
Yep.
the tests, the traditional code tests for it, all those things. Hmm.
Yeah, and it might even be really polite in that it would go out and look for other public naps that have this nap as a dependency, and let's run your tests for you because I'm charging you to go through this nap. I don't want to break anyone's, and also want to know before I put out a new
Yeah.
version of this nap
It's like
that it doesn't break your nap.
really well behaved developers that are
Yeah,
trying to do the right thing for everyone with endless energy.
yeah, and then we can finally get rid of having to scroll beta over everything.
I know, right? It's like, nah, it's these bots have taken this tiny chunk of functionality and just squeezed it within an inch of
Yeah,
its fucking plank distance. And
and very much understands it and knows all about it,
right, right.
um, and and can reason out the unintended consequences of doing anything around this nap before it's even published. Say,
Mm. Right.
um,
So none of that really helps me though, because it doesn't. I mean, sorry, it does help me a lot to reinvigorate me over the Napp format's opinions and limitations, but I'm still not sure how to integrate it into Artifact where we are now.
Mhm. Well, let's go through. Let's go through the chain. So describe what. Well, let's discuss because probably don't have an example. I've got a natural language front end to weather app, weather nap.
Mm.
Now, I would need to tell that natural language, or that natural language thing would need to know that. Okay, so this is the nap that you're talking about. Then get the weather. Let's see. We'll keep it that simple. That's all the prompt is. In the natural language thing, get the weather. So it would need then to do what? Load consider the naps and get the weather. It would then need to load that and then check the permissions are acceptable and all available. That you are who you are with your API key to call this weather source. Call the weather source, and they said the weather in Scotland is Druk. So um, that's so in terms of going from natural language, that's obviously not artifact, except that that natural language is just a string of characters. It needs to be, at the very least, it needs some kind of bootstrapping out to something in order to understand what the naps are that it requires in order to do that. And if it's something a bit
No,
more complex inside of that, it would need to know a model to call.
dear. Um, Look, I'm gonna have to go, buddy. It's pretty late here.
Yeah, no worries. This is non-trivial,
This is what's holding
but
everything up
really interesting.
because if I can't get a handle on what the good workflow is for the nap, then I can't implement the nap, which means that I can't implement the identity service, which means that, like, I'm like, meh, it's sort of, it's become
Yeah.
a major,
Uh,
major thing.
well, tomorrow we'll probably have more time to go through this, and I'll give it some thought.
Yeah, if you
Um,
can, do you think, can we get on a call as early as you can manage tomorrow and go through
yeah,
it? Because I'll spend the
yeah,
day
yeah.
trying to sketch out what it is, but this this is the blocker. Like this is restructuring the whole system to fit. Should I publish packages to npm? I don't know. Should I, how do you work on something before publishing as an intermediate step? How should the tests be exported from the nap?
hmm
Like
And
I
linked because the tests need to be linked to the NAP, but the tests could equally be shared with more than one NAP. Why not? Because we're abstracting, we're not injecting.
Yeah, which is another sort of a problem. So now are tests like free floating? Are they their own thing, or are they inside a nap, or are they shared by naps? Or God,
You could have a
it just
test saying, make sure that everything is returned in Spanish. You wouldn't, would want to share that
mm.
with old NAPs that offer a Spanish version.
And
Say,
then there's the help system, which is the um, ergonomic for an AI to dig into the knowledge about this nap so it could learn more and more about how it worked. It should also be able to navigate the dependencies of that nap so that the nap itself gave a good understanding of why it had these dependencies. And then if the reader wants to understand more, it digs into the help of the dependency nap as well, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, it should be able to, if the nap was written well, it should be able to use the advertised help, But if it wasn't, it should be able to read the contents of the Napp and generate some help that is suitable for its particular purpose.
Yeah, yeah, and you could even add context to that. I could write another Napp that asks whether this Napp would be suitable for giving weather in Scotland. And I said, no, I've just read that, and it doesn't.
Mm.
As a start for 10, though, one of the things I'm very, very keen on is the combination of disparate naps into other naps that can be then used in other naps, because by that combination, not only do you get the dedupe, you get the solid testing, because we've
Yeah.
got naps can be tested. So
Yeah.
you can start mix and matching these to do stuff that we can't even think about right now.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so that's sort of the what's the word for it even? Like the lesson we learned, right, is that probabilistic systems can only be tested using a probabilistic testing framework. And the smaller you make your testable unit, the more reliable you can make a system that is composed from units, because the
Yeah.
probability just explodes if you try and test it end to end, and that's your only kind of testing. Unit testing greatly enhances the chance that the whole overall system will behave as intended if each unit was behaving as intended in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But unit testing as the core allows also things like modeling. If I was to put this snap with this snap with this snap, and I'm going to ask it about the weather in Scotland, it's going to give me the right thing.
Mm,
And because it can understand this, because we've honed down, it's like, yeah, sure, I can build that for you. You know, there's a weather app there, but you might need to go off and get credentials for it because of the charge, and and so on and so forth.
mm,
But I'm talking to an AI is taking me through. Yeah, we've got this big room full of toys, and you said you
right.
want that one, and that one.
That's
Oh,
right.
nobody's ever done that before. Right, here's what you're going to need to do. We're going to need a bit more
Yeah.
information for you.
And then it
And
starts
it's
to
like,
look like,
cool. Other people
yeah,
can use that. How about we publish that? And they go, yeah, okay, well, we'll have to write some tests, and yeah, pass tests. Right, up it goes.
right, right. So the chances of an unskilled person being able to publish a useful Napp is highest when we have strongly specified what the Napp format should be and modularized it as much as possible. And so the reasoners actually feel that or respond to the Napp format as being making logical sense.
Yeah, 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 exactly. They need the reasoner who's helping the human build this thing needs to know what these toys do.
Yeah,
You
and it
know,
needs to make
uh,
sense to the reasoner.
yeah.
Hmm.
So as
Okay,
a overall paradigm, that I think that is really strong in terms of innovation, being able to bring in different things. Nobody's ever thought about putting these things together in this order before. Oh, and
right.
I can add some logic in there, and then boom, here I've got a new thing.
Hmm.
It also works very well with stocks as well. Be- because a stuck is just an incomplete nap. It's one with gaps in it, right?
Gaps, yeah, gap Napp.
Gap
Yeah.
nap.
Okay. All right.
All
Well,
right.
look,
Anyway,
I better go because I need to get some sleep. Actually.
yeah, no worries. All right, I'll see you if I can get as early as I can tomorrow
Yeah.
morning.
Just watch out.
We'll
Like
go
I
through this.
see the tests you're running, and I
Hmm.
looked at that one that you sent me. That was a fault in there was a hallucination of the arguments there. Um,
Yeah.
I believe that what happened was the issue is that the tool call is malformed. I shouldn't be asking it to say what tests it wants. I should be just letting it say run them all or run one specific one rather than requiring it to list all the ones it wants to run when it wants to run them all. I think that's a
Oh,
mistake.
that will explain what I'm seeing, which is when I take each individual test and run that in isolation. Happy days.
Right.
When I combine them, weirdness.
Yeah. So I
Uh,
just the my worry, what I'm concerned about for you is that there's so much there's faults in how the tool calls go, there's faults in how the test runner works, there's faults in the prompting of the test file runner, there's a lot of faults everywhere, and
yeah.
I'm afraid of wasting your time on some of those areas because they're just too there's too many stacked errors for you to get anywhere without going insane. That's kind of what I'm worried
I
about.
wouldn't worry too much about that because it is messy as hell. Uh, so I don't mind going around the boy, two, three, four times
Yeah,
and getting a small improvement. I don't
okay.
see a way around it. We're bootstrapping, right? It's
Well,
just
there is a way around it. I think there is a way around it. And maybe that's a
yeah.
better discussion to have. Because if we can get this Napp format down, like if
Mhm.
I don't know if you can even describe for me a story of what your happy days path of editing a Napp and generating it is. The sooner we can get this happy days format for Napp done, the sooner I can move on to fixing the issues with the testing framework because like it doesn't make sense to fix the testing framework now because the Napp format might change that, so it would be wasted effort. But if we can get the Napp
Yeah,
format nailed
yeah.
down,
I would probably, I'll probably meet you halfway there because the tests I'm writing at the moment, I've not touched Assessor, looking at
okay.
router and files, and thinking about what is acceptable for each of those
Mm,
in terms of prompts and example responses, which seems still good work to do. But I will do your narrative about, given what we've been talking today, and it'd be wrong.
yeah, yeah,
If I turned up as a human and talking
yeah,
to a bot, and out the end of it, what I wanted to do is quite a complex nap.
yeah.
What would be the NL story? And I'll put it as
Right.
this worked quite well last time. It's like a script, so I'll pretend, just write
That's
out,
right. That's right. Like
Dave, how Dave, how, yeah,
a pseudo chat. Those are
um,
good. And then,
and
and then we also need to consider like what's the modification path for the CRM using the Napp format. Like once they're up and running using Hammer, which is a combination of Naps. What if we want to upgrade a specific
Mhm,
Nap? How do we ingest the problems? How do we twiddle with the version we want to upgrade?
mhm,
And then how do we push the change? Like that loop
mhm.
is critical. Like it needs to run on a production system. We need to know how we're doing that. We probably couldn't
That's
go over that too much. Put it that way.
sounds very similar to the test loop that we drew out in that diagram a while back, but I'll have a think about that
Mm.
specifically in the new
So
context.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
look, I'm sorry everything's so messy, and I'm like chucking all this random shit at you, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that if we can get naps down, it's I wouldn't say plain sailing, but it's certainly
it's another big chunk of stuff, isn't it?
it's
Nah,
probably the biggest.
that
Like it's probably because
yeah,
from that point on, it's just about making naps.
yeah. Okay, so here's what I'll do today then. What I would like to do is just finish my thought on the test for router. The
Okay,
other ones are early enough that I could easily spend the rest of the day on it, but let's just package that up and I'll commit that,
okay,
and then I'll get that narrative done.
all right, sounds good.
And then, yeah,
Um,
I've got it,
another
and we'll talk
another
about it.
issue, another issue that you
Mhm,
created for yourself accidentally was you renamed global definitions. You moved the file, but
mhm.
that file was referenced inside of the test format file. And so when it went to expand the
Yeah,
links, it errored. So after that
yeah,
rename, it would have stopped working.
yeah.
Um, and that's why I
Oops,
also
sorry about
said
that.
that I think that global definitions should be separate from all of the info files because you might want to pull in several info files. You don't want to get the same copy of global definitions coming in every time.
Yeah, it's a little bit like dependencies, isn't it? You don't want
Yeah.
to, if you got a Napp at one level that is dependent on another Napp, you got another Napp that's working with that that's dependent on the same Napp. You don't want to pull it in twice. Um, yeah, that was a good spot.
One
Um,
one last question to sort of butter your bread with.
uh,
What do you think of the concept of reverse dependencies? So, for example, if you had a Napp that was the global definitions Napp that laid out the ground rules and the dictionary and all that, and then you had all these other, like the CRM Napp could point to this global definitions Napp as its parent, or it could say that it inherits from this thing, and
mhm.
so that any agent that was looking to understand how this Napp worked would would need to start, if they weren't already aware how the global definition system worked, they would need to go up instead of down, because dependencies always point down in a tree. Whereas if we allowed this field that also pointed up, you could.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's an excellent point to make, and I guess that's um, about 10 minutes ago when I was just thinking about the testing of being the idea you can be very polite. So say if you're further up in the tree
Mm,
and you change it, the ones further down you should be aware of, but if this Napp is run, you should be aware of what's further up in the tree. That just seems polite.
okay.
Um,
All right. Well, we'll see if we can work that in somehow. But yeah, because
yeah,
like the again, the issue with info files and this linking starts to look a lot like the problem we're seeing in the agents folder. These info things
mm,
need to be modularized as well, and they need to be,
yeah,
put into an app somewhere and dealt with in
yeah,
in this way. We gotta.
and accessed only by the Napps that can or should access
Right.
them to get around to prompt hacking. Yeah,
Right, right. Because even though context windows may or may not be with us for the long term, um, the fact that you should scope your information seems pretty fundamental to all information processing systems, including humans.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah. Right, I'll let you go. Slightly just for the recording, and this is for my thought process when I listen back to this. Um, wondering whether this is less a dependency tree, more of a dependency graph. But that's just for me. It's a very half-formed thought.
uh,
Um, but anyway,
yeah. Okay, buddy. Well,
all right, nice one.
I feel a lot better after that talk. Thank you. I don't know how you feel.
It's nice. So, oh, it's I'm just it's like a lovely juicy one.